Well, as you know, our journey was pretty crooked, and I don't think that there was any other reason that Lexi received care except for intuition. We are supposed to trust our healthcare professionals, and many times they're amazing, but in this case, we felt like every turn in Lexi's road, we were just turned away. Every time we had a symptom or had a gut, like you put it, we weren't getting answers to those guts. Mm-hmm. So we just kept having to push and push and push and rely on that instinct. And you know me, I call that God just gently nudging you. So had it not been for not only my intuition, but my husband's intuition, he had 11 years with mentally and physically handicapped adults in a prior employment. And it was those two powers together and a lot of prayer that allowed us to really push and make sure that she received the care and the life and the outcomes as you know her today that every child deserves. So I remember I sat there and she's basically looked at us, and sweet Kathy, who you know is just an angel and tells us in the most precious way that our child is deaf. And for about 5 seconds as moms, we get that's all we get, 5 seconds to process. So I'm like, okay, what do we do? Sign language, special schools, where are we sending our child? So immediately though, within 5 minutes, we learn about this cochlear implant and speech therapy and all of this whole world that we never even knew of. But if you think about the pathway to that it took us 13 to 14 months to get that answer. And it was going back to your question of intuition. It was us as parents fighting for that answer and pushing and not accepting status quo. But then you also look at, I also had to rely on a little bit of me before I went into that appointment, and I was misinformed. Mm-hmm. And so then we found amazing clinicians and audiologists and speech pathologists who literally transformed her life, as you and I both know it. So I can remember rocking her, and she wouldn't lay her head on my shoulder. And so I would go out and I would hand her, and I honestly, you know Lexi, she's very defiant. She's a second child and a hot mess, and there's no other way to put it. She knows who she is, and she is strong-willed. Mm-hmm. So I kind of chalked it up to that. And it took her about 2 months, not to hear, but to really learn to listen to what I was doing and know what that sound was. And so the first time her head went on my shoulder, it literally was like time stopped. And that's when it hit me that there are these milestones and there are these big moments in life. And if we blink, we miss them. But if we really don't pay attention to our kids and kind of their things that they're quote unquote telling us, even when they're not speaking, we can miss some pretty important stuff. We just can't, you always have to be present, and you always have to be really paying attention to what it is that your child needs from you, and sometimes it's not a spoken need. Mm-hmm. So you taught us to teach her, and that is I think it's for any type of therapy. I always say I wish I'd known this with my son who has ADHD, as you know, who's older than Lexi. But learning to implement everything that you do in 30 to 60 minutes with you. And let's be real, Lexi is like your mini in so many ways, your personality. So it was like, I mean, God gave us the perfect match, and you and I are so close now still, and in your family's story and why you're so passionate about kids with hearing loss and deafness. But that to me was such a critical point in her, because you and I are so similar, where it's, if we're going to do this, we're all in, we're 150 million %. And, as you know, Lexi now, she's 9, and she's doing such amazing things. And we're having these big girl conversations about, like we just talked about, she's this amazing fast pitch pitcher, and she's an amazing basketball player, but she works so hard in school and does so well. And I just keep telling her, like, God saw all of this, like you in our pathway, the parents that Kevin and I are, the fire that you and I have, and we're a part of her path. He knew that, like, all of these things and these gifts that he gave her and this story were to be used for so much more, and we don't even know an inch of it. And we just feel so blessed every single day